Good morning, one and all. Probably you felt, if you watched Cup of Tea last night, if you didn't watch Cup of Tea last night, why not? Go back and watch it if you didn't. Probably you felt, this is ending abruptly. I want more tea. A bit like myself. There's nothing, literally nothing in there. So we didn't get through all the questions. We never get through all the questions. So we've taken a few of them now. Gia's saved some of them up and he's going to hit me with them. And we're going to deal with a few more of your opinions and discuss some more West Ham topics. Gio.
Well, we'll go straight in with the controversial one. Lauren says, would you swap Rice for Kane?
Oh, that's good.
Obviously, a hypothetical one. It's not a realistic thing. Hypothetically, would you swap Declan Rice for Harry Kane?
Yes. And I'll tell you why.
Would you?
Bear in mind, I didn't know you were going to ask that. I'll tell you why. I think Declan Rice wants to leave. All right? I think he wants to leave. Would that be fair to assume that? He said he's not going to sign a new contract. He wants to leave. Now, I'm assuming if Harry Kane is going to come to West Ham, he wants to sign. So we get a world-class player, striker, in a position we need that wants to sign for 5 years. I guess he'd sign for 5 years, wouldn't he? And we're losing a player that has only got 3 years left on his contract and doesn't want to be here. So actually, I would say yay to that.
I would say no, and I'm finding it hard to sort of justify that reasoning. I think it's just the age thing, really, and it's almost like I don't know. It's hard to justify, isn't it? But no, I wouldn't. My gut feeling says don't do it, Gio. So I'm saying no, I would not swap Declan Rice for Harry Kane. Buster says, how significant a role do you think Ben Johnson? Glenn Johnson's old. How significant a role do you think Ben Johnson will play this year, considering his versatile and our lack of squad depth?
I think it's going to be a hugely important player, actually. I think he's going to be on the bench for every game, and I think he's going to start some games. And it wouldn't surprise me if you get to the end of the season and you added up his substitute appearances and he starts. If you look at it, I think Ben Johnson's played 30 times this season. That would not surprise me in the least. And anyone that plays 30 times for your first team, regardless of whether they're just coming on for the last half hour or they're starting, is an important player. I've always felt with Johnson that whenever he's played well, he's just played well. Whenever he hasn't played well, I've always thought it's a lack of confidence and it's a lack of conviction. It's a half-assed pass, if you want. It's not anything. I don't ever feel like he's been skinned and caught out loads of times. It's actually been in possession. Yeah, you look at him in the games, in the friendly games, and also in the games where he's played well. And I offer you the example of that goal against Brighton. Actually, his technique's pretty good, so I do think it's confidence. I don't think he's a complete cart horse in terms of his technique. And then you look at the way he's played in pre-season, clearly he's scored a really good goal with his left foot. He's dribbled past a number of players to do it. Plus, he's got a couple of assists as well. One of the assists was from the right, another one was from the left. One of them was a right foot cross, the other one's a left foot cross. This is a good player, not a world beater. All right, not a world beater. All right. You're not going to see him sign him at Man City as one of their £50 million fullbacks, whenever they go and buy some more £50 million fullbacks. You're not. But as a squad player at West Ham that can cover 2 or 3 positions, that adds massive value, particularly in a thin squad. Those players like that, and I've said this before because I've said it about 4 hours. There's a number. Cresswell would be the prime example. Can play at left centre back and can play as a wing back, play as a left back. They're vital because, as you've seen, when the odd player drops out and you have to juggle your squad around and you've got a small squad, you're looking at players, you're thinking, okay, who can I get to play there? Who gets to play there? These players come into their own. So I think we're looking at a really decent season for him, actually.
Yeah, me too. I wouldn't sell him because what's his value? 8 million, 10 million? I would never take that for Ben Johnson. No chance would I take that because you'd almost need to buy 2 players to replace him because you can cover so many positions, or you've got to find someone who can cover those positions as well as him. And it's not easy. There's not enough of those players, but there's not many. Otherwise, everybody would have them, wouldn't they? Everybody would have players that can play. You look at Man City with Cancelo, you look at Leicester with Castagne, he can do it as well. But there's not loads of them. And I think he's got a massive role to play, particularly with the Europa League, because you say we play a Premier League game, Cresswell left back, Soufal right back. Come Thursday night, Moyes says, right, I'm going to rest one of them. Ben Johnson's going in. It almost doesn't matter which one I'm resting. Ben Johnson is going in. If it's Creswell I'm resting, Johnson goes in. Sufal I'm resting, Johnson goes in again. I think that is priceless for us. And also in the friendlies, can't read too much into it, but Moyes has played him right wing on a few occasions. Moyes keeps putting him on in that right wing position. Now, I'm not suggesting he's good enough to do that, but you do wonder, Moyes is thinking, well, if things get desperate and I need a right winger, that's the guy I'm putting on. Moyes put him on centre midfield last season ahead of Connor Coventry as well, when Mark Noble got injured and Rice was injured already.
Yeah.
He put Ben Johnson on centre mid rather than putting on Connor Coventry. Now, while I don't think it was the right thing to do,
he looked awful.
That is a massive show of faith from the manager to say to Ben Johnson, I know you've never played here in your life, but I trust you. Go on. And I think Moyes does trust him. Not quite good enough yet, but I do think come the end of the season, he'll be knocking on the door of the first team. He'll be good enough to start in the first 11, hopefully. Now, back to the questions. James Gunn. Does Moyes actually know what he wants? Only asking because Phil Jones, Kurt Zouma, Lenkovic aren't similar players. Neither is Oxlade-Chamberlain against Pereira and Jesse Lingard.
Well, firstly, we don't know. We don't know which ones of these are true. We can. I mean, I saw your video. Well, I say last night, it'll be a couple of nights ago by the time people watch this, Gio. And you spoke about Tammy Abraham and you alluded to the fact that when you said cup of tea that Moyes wants him. Okay, so we know that one. We know he wanted Tarkowski. We know that. And we know that he wanted En-Nesyri because he said it in his press conference. Aside from that, I'm struggling to think of anyone else that it's been confirmed. So the Zouma talk, the Phil Jones talk may have even been played up by me, to be perfectly honest with you, James, as I probably spoke about Phil Jones more than anyone else. So how much of it has actually come from David Moyes for any of these ones, I don't know. I mean, and I said this when I did the video the other day, which you know, James, I saw you commented on the video. I saw you in the comments, mate. But is it us that's made up the Pereira thing? Is it me? I say me, I mean us as fans. Was it us just wanting Pereira so much that we assumed the club had bid for him? Maybe there was never any interest in Pereira at all, and we just got ourselves excited. So I don't know. Does Moyes know what he wants? I think he probably does. I would imagine, though, that what Moyes wants and what Moyes can get are two very, very different things, actually. And I think you'll find that he's disappointed an awful lot because he can't get. He wanted Tarkowski, couldn't get him. Wants En-Nesyri, couldn't get him. Abrahams wants him, couldn't get him. Definitely wants Jesse Lingard, possibly can't get him. We don't really know much else apart from that, mate, to be honest with you.
I agree with that. I will go one step further. And listen, me and Gonzo are to blame as much as anyone else for this. It's because of social media. It's because you have to be first. The in the knows, the journalists have to be first. It's I remember it was regarding Trent Alexander-Arnold getting into the England squad. It was that, because remember, he wasn't in it. It wasn't in it. And all of a sudden, all the journalists were saying, actually, he is in it. And I remember someone saying, and it was just a random guy on Twitter. It wasn't even a big person of that. And he had a couple of favourites on the tweet. And he tweeted something like, the Trent Alexander-Arnold thing is proof more than ever that it's more important to be first than it is to be correct. And I just thought that sums up. And me and Gonzo are guilty of it as well, because if a rumour comes out, we're the first ones to jump on a video and record it because we want the clicks off the back of it.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
If a rumour come out tomorrow that West Ham want to sign Callum Wilson, I can guarantee you Hammershack will have a video within 2 hours. West Ham want Callum Wilson.
Yeah.
But reports are we are guilty. In this domino effect, it starts with someone, then it gets circulated on social media. Journalists pick up on it. They start reporting on it because they don't want to miss out. Me, Gollins and West Ham Fan TV then start reporting on it because we don't want to miss out. Needs at Motherbound and Climate Hugh have an article up about it because they don't want to miss out. Everybody's fending for themselves. It's a domino effect. It's like throwing a pebble in a lake and it just ripples. And some people at the
or throwing a pebble into an aquatic centre, let's say.
That's it. Throwing a pebble in an aquatic centre. Lots of ripples. And that's just social media thing these days, because the Phil Jones thing is laughable. And like I said, we both covered it. But the guy that put it up linked Phil Jones to 7 Premier League teams. West Ham were one of them. There were 6 other Premier League teams. And I was saying to someone, I said, anyone could have done that. He basically took out the top 6. He took out the 3 promoted clubs. That left him with 9, right? He just eliminated 4. Using his head, because he took out Leicester and said, well, Leicester don't need a centre-back, take him out. And he took out another couple of Premier League clubs. He was left with 7. Thought, do you know what? Just going to link Phil Jones to all of them. And it worked. I bet you the other 6 fan channels were also reporting, we might be signing Phil Jones. Oh, bollocks! It's all bollocks. It's the fear of missing out. And the Mateus Pereira is a prime example of this. It's almost like one journalist says one to him. Everybody else has to say, oh, yeah, that might be happening. Just in case it does happen, they can say, I told you.
Yeah, I think we're better than most because we don't break the news. We don't ever turn around and say I told you so. In that sense, we don't, because we only sort of react to it. But I think with the Pereira's double, because I think not only have you got people like us wanting to talk about it, he's such a good player. The fans actually want him, and we want him in the team because he'd be so brilliant in a team.
It's in relation to James's question. What does Moyes want? We don't know. He probably doesn't want half those players. Like the rumours yesterday was Pereira, only one Premier League club even seriously asked about Pereira, and it was Everton. It wasn't even us. So as far as the West Brom side of things are concerned, West Ham were never seriously interested in him.
The thing is, how would we know? This is the other thing. I'll tell you now, Sullivan's not saying anything at the moment. He's not speaking to anyone. He's just not. You'll have heard that as well, Joe, from a completely separate source to me. He's not saying anything to anyone at the moment. Who does David Moyes tell? His wife? Who Moyes' wife? Is it Irvine? Maybe Stuart Pearce, quite possibly. I don't think that we know too much at all, and that's no bad thing. Don't be wrong, but we've got to. But so I think it's not just us that need the stories, because we don't break stories. So we're like bottom feeders, really. We just go along taking everybody else's. But there are a lot of websites now, and there are a lot of because we do the One Football. What the One Football does is it aggregates all of. So it's. I did a one Football review the other day. There wasn't a single One Football app story on there, but they'd aggregated everybody else's. There are so many of these tribal football fan casts. There are so many of these different websites, and they all have to really, to get a certain amount of hits, I guess, have got to link 5 players to each Premier League club each day or something like that. So yeah, it's a tough one to cut through it, James. All I would say on that, mate, maybe we can have a little bit of fun and entertain ourselves and pass 10 minutes of the day by talking about it, thinking about it, and possibly dismissing it.
I better say I dismissed 3/4 of it anyway. I said, I don't believe it, kind of thing. The Aviola thing, I know how that got leaked, and it's not through Moyes or Sullivan or anything like that. It's when I say it got leaked, he was hooked up to a machine getting his medical. At that point, it was almost like impossible to stop it getting out because too many people were involved in it by then. Major says, would you take a punt on Joe Willock? He's sort of on the verge of perhaps leaving Arsenal. On loan at Newcastle second half last season. Arsenal apparently want big money for him, though, but 22 million I think they're trying to get for Joe Willock, because they obviously need to try and fund James Maddison.
I think it'd be an outstanding signing. Actually, I think he's what would suit us. I think he would suit David Moyes. I think he's adaptable to the Premier League. I think his energy is superb. He's got a goal scoring record. I think he can do a bit of everything in midfield there. Can play if you're playing with a 4 at the back and you just have the 2 midfielders. In fact, actually, be pretty damn good at that, actually, because he gets around quite well. Or if you want to play with a 3 at the back and you've got 3 midfielders, be really good in that as well. I get the final question on that. So those are all yeses from me. If it is 22 million, Gio said, first I've heard of it, by the way. If it is 22 million, would we get that back? And I think the answer is yes. So actually, that 22 million is a sound investment on the balance sheet. That's not wasted. That's not Aston Villa spending 30 million on Danny Ings. Aston Villa never seeing that 30 million again. 22 million on Willock. Well, if he stayed about as good as he was, you'd probably still get 25 for him. If he goes on to become the player that he might do, you might well be dealing with a 40, 50 million pound player. I would actually be excited by that. But going back to what James said, there may be no interest in him whatsoever. But it's believable. Moyes would like him, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it would be a fantastic signing as well for us. Also, what it does do, going by the Villa thing with Jack Grealish, it almost starts to protect you a little bit for Rice leaving next season, because then you've got Souček and Willock in centre midfield rather than just Souček. I think you do need to try and get someone in that can play a big role this season. Not necessarily be Rice's long-term replacement, because Joe Willock is not that. He's not Declan Rice's replacement. He'd probably be more of a replacement for Souček than Rice. But what it does do, it doesn't put you under immense pressure immediately. It allows you to step back, say, right, we've got cover in there. We need another one, but we've got another centre midfielder. We've now got 2 Premier League centre midfielders in there, minus if Declan Rice was to leave. And I just think it proofs us for the future a little bit. So Joe Willock at West Ham, I would love to see it, to be honest with you. What it does do, it stops Newcastle strengthening. And while I don't think they're an immediate opponent of ours in terms of league table stuff, it doesn't do any. It never does you any harm stopping a rival adding to their squad and stuff. So,
absolutely.
Joe Willock, it's plus for me.
I like it. That's about us done, isn't it?
Yeah, that's done, my friend.
Nice one. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Gio, for joining me. I'm going to do the end slate without the music. Got complaints about the music being too loud, so I've turned it down a little bit. Gio, thank you very much. I'll catch you next time. You haven't gone and checked it out, please go and look at last night's cup of tea. Gio, thank you very much, my friend.
Ta-da!